There have been a lot of conversations following Nigeria's redesignation as a country of particular concern by the United States. And those conversations and reactions have taken different flavors and different angles and so on. However, it's important to make certain things abundantly clear. First things first, Nigeria isn't making a lot of progress security wise, nor are we making a lot of progress in other areas, but that's a discussion for another time. However, the claims central to our redesignation as a country of particular concern are the claims that there is a Christian genocide occurring, particularly in the northern part of the country. The official response of the Nigerian states and to many individuals from northern Nigeria is that there is no Christian genocide occurring in the country because individuals and or communities who identify with other religions, particularly Islam, in northern Nigeria, are also targeted and killed. But I think this is a disingenuous take because if we look at insecurity in Nigeria, insecurity in Nigeria is not a monolith by any means. It's a thing with very many facets and many layers of nuance to it. Different regions of the country are insecure in different ways. For example, the southeast has the IPOB separatists running about who perpetuates insecurity from the ideological basis of self-determination and the rejection of the Nigerian state's authority. For example, if you go to the North Central, we have a kidnapping problem, we have an armed robbery problem, we have Boko Haram still operating in the Northeast who subjugate communities and or individuals irrespective of religious affiliation as long as you stand in their way. And then central to the claims of the Christian genocide is the occurrences of insecurity we have in the north, particularly the north, the middle belt part of the north or the north central, where communities and individuals are targeted and killed seemingly specifically because of their religious affiliation. This is important to keep in mind. So, in other words, there is nobody making a claim that Muslims aren't victims of violent crime or of terrorism and so on and so forth. But the claim being made here is that Christians in northern Nigeria, specifically the Middle Belt, seem to be attacked specifically because they are Christians or specifically because they are not Muslims. In other words, the Muslims who are victims of violent crime and or terrorist attacks in northern Nigeria seem to be victims of violent crime and terrorist attacks irrespective of the fact that they are Muslims. They just are victims who are they are just victims of these crimes who happen to be Muslims. And this is very, very important to note. The situation of Christians being attacked in northern Nigeria and in other parts of the country is so bad that Nigeria is perhaps one of the most dangerous nations to be a Christian due to the sheer number of communities that are being razed to the ground every other day in northern Nigeria. And a lot of the perpetrators of these crimes, from witness reports from survivors and so on, seem to fit an Islamic fundamentalist profile. Hence, it isn't very difficult to draw a conclusion that Islamic fundamentalists are targeting and killing people and entire communities specifically because of their religious affiliation, specifically Christianity in this case. So, the responses of both the government and many northern Muslims to the allegations of a Christian genocide, irrespective of the material evidence, devolves to a sort of whataboutism. It is odd. It does not engage with the claims being made. It does not engage with the evidence being presented by those who are underneath the burden of these violent attacks and these killings and so on and so forth. I do think that there may be an ethnic angle to the attacks, but that's a nuance that is more complicated to talk about, and I will not explore it this time around. And to any Muslims who are listening to this, I do get it because it can be unnerving to have to deal with the fact that there are people who are being accused and with a lot of material evidence of committing heinous crimes in this case being genocide and or ethnic cleansing, especially if those crimes seem to come from the ideological basis of their fundamentalism, or seem to come from the ideological basis of the faith that you share with those same people. So it can seem like a personal attack, but I assure you this is not a personal attack in any way. It isn't. What we cannot continue to deny is that Nigeria has unnerving levels of latent fundamentalism, enabled and endorsed perhaps by the particular brand of Islam that is being practiced by, a lot of people, particularly in northern Nigeria. Muslims are far more likely to engage in egregious acts of violence inspired by their belief, which is why we have so many reports of, blasphemy accusations, as well as the, often disastrous consequences that come with that. Nigeria cannot continue to deny this reality, a reality where fundamentalism has grown unchecked, a reality where fundamentalism has permeated all corridors of power. We cannot continue to deny this reality. This is why terrorists are captured and then they are pardoned and reintegrated into society as repentant without any accountability, without any punishment for the crimes that they had committed, for the atrocities that they had facilitated. This is why people can be so brazen as to murder others for allegations of blasphemy. This is why the Nigerian government seems to have a policy of nonchalance towards the killings as the bodies continue to pile up and as the communities continue to cry under the burden of these crimes. If Muslims in Nigeria believe that the people who perpetuate these crimes and or carry out these atrocities are practicing a perversion of their faith, then their voice must be louder than the voice of anyone else, louder or rather loud in condemnation of these atrocities. However, this silence has been seen and continues to be seen as complicity, especially when the claims are then made in ways that seem to distract from the issue, in ways that seem to be whataboutism in nature. These childish attempts to deflect, to invalidate the lived realities of people on the ground, is not helping the case of many, particularly northern Nigerian Muslims.